So with Borderlands 4 slowly but surely being worked on, and with no release date in sight for us to look forward to, I wanted to talk about what would make Borderlands 4 perfect for me. Now I know a lot of what I'm going to say probably won't happen due to potentially how far along the game already is, or it just not being possible. But the main hope for this video, other than me just expressing my ideas, is to have the chance of causing a conversation, which may lead to a new idea that sparks the creation of something new, as well as a place for you guys to share your ideas and thoughts. Now the first thing I want to talk about are Vault Hunters for Borderlands 4. Now traditionally, with all Borderlands games, excluding Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, we have 4 Vault Hunters at launch, and if we're lucky, we get 1 to 2 DLC Vault Hunters thrown at us throughout the year. I think there shouldn't be 4 new Vault Hunters, and instead we should get all living previous Vault Hunters to return and get the Borderlands 3 treatment with multiple action skills, 4 skill trees, and skill augments. Now I know this isn't an easy task to do, and it's asking a lot out of the developers. Even if we simplify everything down with only 3 trees for all 13 Vault Hunters, that's 39 skill trees that require new art, as well as text, as well as the task of deciding what skills to keep, change, or remove. But just imagine what it would do for the player base, as well as the replayability for the game. How amazing would it be to see your first main character you ever played as in the Borderlands series with updated mechanics and skills? Or just imagine how crazy it would be to have Brick from Borderlands 1, Salvador from Borderlands 2, Moze from Borderlands 3, and Claptrap from the pre-sequel all in the same game. The mayhem that you and your friends could get up to would be crazy. But I do need to mention that if we do get 13 Vault Hunters, that could seriously clutter the loot pool for class mods, so there's going to have to be something done to prevent that kind of clutter. Maybe perhaps only certain class mods can drop depending on what characters are in the game. I would really love to see something like this, even if it's not all 13, or if we're only getting a few at launch and over time they add the rest. But Randy did say that they're working on the big one, and I think having returning Vault Hunters makes a lot of sense for a game that's been given such a title. The next thing I would like to see is for them to play more into playstyles and gimmicks. Let's start with gimmicks. Krieg is a psycho, and all his skills and abilities build into him being a psycho from Pandora. You can be a badass psycho, a pyro psycho, or an explosive psycho. The character plays like the name says, and I think almost all DLC Vault Hunters do this with the exception of Gage, where her skills don't really play into the name, or just isn't viable due to scaling or endgame balance. Zero is another Vault Hunter that I feel misses that mark for me, but in a different way. All his skills promote that he is the best assassin on Pandora. He has a sniper tree, a weapon expert tree, and a melee tree. But I don't feel like I can be this stealth assassin taking out targets with enemies having no idea where I came from or where the shot came from, or pulling out my sword and skillfully dismantling my opponents. Now, I know that kind of playstyle may not fit in a game like Borderlands, but if we get 13 Vault Hunters, it could work. And that doesn't mean I don't want returning Vault Hunters like Zero to be played like he was in Borderlands 2. They still need to feel like they did in the old game. But just add to it, so if you want to play this out-of-sight assassin character, you can. Which leads me into playstyles. So say if we have 3 Sirens in Borderlands 4, that being Lilith, Maya, and Amara. They all have a lot of similar skills. So what if they all offered something a little bit different while still being similar, and not losing what makes them them? For example, what if Maya is more focused on healing and buffing herself and allies, providing damage reduction? Maybe she can have a new action skill similar to something out of Destiny, like the Well of Radiance. And maybe Lilith can be more focused on giving movement speed buffs and damage buffs and fire rate buffs. And maybe Amara is more focused on crowd control and setting up deadly elemental combinations. Now, I don't want them to completely change what makes Borderlands Borderlands. It doesn't need to become a hero shooter or have some kind of meta where you have to run the best team setup. I just want them to play more into this power fantasy of allowing you to be an angelic siren that provides buffs and healing for all her allies, or being this unkillable tank that demands the aggression of all the enemies to look at him while his teammates safely dispose of them. Next, I want to talk about endgame, endgame balance, and endgame items. The Borderlands franchise has struggled with this for a long time, and the first thing that needs to go is overpowered levels, chaos levels, and mayhem levels. All of them need to go. I do not enjoy refarming my gear 100 times over again just to have a slight increase to my loot and still get two-shotted. It's just not worth it, and it's not fun. There are far better ways of doing endgame difficulty that doesn't include all enemies having health regen that's stronger than the damage you can put out, or having everything two-shot you. Stuff like that just makes a lot of builds and weapons not viable in the endgame for no reason, which just ends up hurting replayability. Now, Jolt's made a video talking about this mechanic, and I think it's a really good idea, and that's each time you do New Game Plus on Borderlands, the enemies adapt and change. They end up having new mechanics and new ways that you have to fight them, keeping gameplay feeling fresh, as well as not allowing you to just brute force through everything with a Grog Nozzle and Herald, and promotes you changing up your playstyle and using different weapons. Another idea is that if they want to add modifiers back from Borderlands 3, maybe do it in a way that's similar to Destiny's Nightfall missions or Warframe's Sortie missions, where you play a mission from the campaign with unique modifiers that change how you complete it, and then once done, you have a chance at unique rewards and cosmetics. And the most challenging content should give the best stuff, or just really strong stuff. I want to feel like I earned the item and it was worth it, and I've triumphed over a challenging foe. We also need something to chase, something to grind for at endgame, whether it's a new rarity like exotics from Destiny, or maybe repurpose pearlescence to fit that role, kinda like what the Tiny Tina Wonderlands Redux mod did. We need something prestigious to grind for or chase at endgame that doesn't include just increasing the difficulty or getting perfect parts on a gun. I want the feeling of getting a rare dropped item at the end of a raid in Destiny or World of Warcraft that completes my build, or just to brag to my friends. Now, the next big item I want to talk about are anointments. Anointments in their current state I find to be very unhealthy for the game and desperately need to be reworked. Now, how I would rework anointments is by making them a selectable upgrade that you get to choose to buff your weapons at endgame. Say perhaps you get a new currency from defeating raid bosses, which then you can take that currency to this new vendor, which then allows you to maybe get a new passive for the item, or maybe a stat increase, or a secondary prefix bonus, or something similar to maybe Masterworks from Destiny. Doing something like this may give certain items that little bit of a boost that they need to become relevant, as well as not having these random RNG buffs that can either make or break a game. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is raids and raid bosses. Now, with each title, raid bosses have gotten crazier and crazier and no longer just feel like stationary bullet sponges. Now, that's not always a bad thing. It's good to have those casual raid bosses like Terramorphous and Pyro Pete. But I also think it's important to have these 4-man-like raids, like the Molly 1 takedowns. The only thing I can really ask for them to do more is just slowly make it a little closer to the Destiny dungeons where there's more mechanics. Maybe there's certain things that you have to do to set up for damage phases, or maybe prevent an attack from going off that would have wiped your team. The only other thing I could really ask for is that if each raid boss they introduce has a unique special item or cosmetic set that's designed after the boss. Something similar to like Destiny, how Atheon has the Vex Mythoclast, or how Crota had the Necrochasm. Stuff like that would be really interesting and I think very fun for Borderlands. Next thing I want to talk about is PvP. I have no idea how they'll pull this off, but if they could figure it out without it being a broken mess, I think it could be a really fun mode to play with friends or just mess around in. It doesn't need to be competitive in any way or have any items locked to it. It's just something to change up the pace every now and then with friends, and it's in no way a must-have thing for Borderlands 4. Other random stuff I would really like to see in the game, Vault Hunter carts I think I should come back in some way. More variety in weapons, maybe bringing back laser guns from the pre-sequel or glitched items, or maybe adding special guns that only one manufacturer can provide. Say, how multiple manufacturers can make snipers, only one manufacturer makes this kind of gun. For example, maybe Jacobs makes this one-shot sniper rifle that shoots rounds the size of soup cans, and maybe Bandits have this slow-firing LMG that's similar to something like the M60 out of Rambo. Collabs. I would love to see collabs from other games, or maybe IPs that Gearbox also has the rights to. It would be really cool if we got to see something like the Golden Desert Eagle from Duke Nukem, or maybe something like the Aliens M41A pulse rifle, or maybe just seeing collabs from other looter games in general, like Diablo, Destiny, or World of Warcraft. Seasonal events, I would really like to see seasonal events return, whether it be done the way they've done it with Borderlands 3, or if they bring back Headhunter packs from Borderlands 2, but have more cosmetics and weapons designed around that event. I would love to see several items that are Halloween themed, or Christmas themed, or any other kind of event. Weapon skin swapping. I think this would be a really cool idea where, say, if you have an item that has returned multiple times in all the different Borderlands games, if you could then swap the model of the weapon. So say you have the conference call in Borderlands 4, and on command, you can swap it to look like the Borderlands 2 conference call or the Borderlands 3 conference call. Character customization, I think this is a no-brainer. Each game they've always done better and better, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it and just go even crazier. And I don't expect we're going to have full face creation like we did in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but it would be really cool that, especially if we get all 13 Vault Hunters to come back, if we can change through the different models, maybe we can be Brick from Borderlands 1, and then choose from Brick from Borderlands 2 or 3 as a base, and then have the primary, tertiary, and then secondary colors and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot that they can do now, and I feel like we can really have one of the most customizable Borderlands games ever character-wise. Next thing I want to talk about is mobility. I don't care how they implement it, whether it's through skills, items, or vehicles. I think anything to do with mobility is always going to be great for Borderlands. The whole dash system that the Tiny Tina's Redux mod did, I think is amazing, and could easily fit in the world of Borderlands. And the final thing I want to mention is cutscene skips and character dialogue skips. I don't care if they give it to us at the beginning, like just right away as an option, or if we have to beat the game once. Just please give it to us in the game. But yeah, that's basically it. That's my big list, and I know this has kind of been more of a ramble. It's kind of meant to be that way. I don't know anything about big coding and things that it takes. This is in no means me demanding that this has to happen. These are just ideas and stuff that I would really like to see and hope see implemented in some way. But that basically does it for me, and I hope all you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you next time, Vault Hunters.